The Ukrainian Peace Summit is underway in Switzerland. Over 90 countries and organizations are gathering to discuss the ongoing war in Ukraine. Mackenzie Gray joins us live from Switzerland right now. He's covering this story. Mackenzie, the Prime Minister, along with his G7 counterparts, announced new funding in Italy over the past few days. Should we expect more announcements this weekend in Switzerland to help Ukraine?
Yeah, we'll have to see about the financial commitments that come across here. You mentioned 90 different countries that are represented, but there are not nearly 90 world leaders at this event. And really, we're looking at the number of world leaders who have significant importance. One person that's not here that's really much to the chagrin of Volodymyr Zelenskyy is Joe Biden. He was just in Italy at the G7, but it's Kamala Harris who's here instead representing the Americans. The Russians are not at the table. The Chinese are there, but not Xi Jinping. The Indians are there, but not Narendra Modi. So it's a large conversation. We were just actually watching the video. It's a massive room. There are literally 90 countries around the table. So we'll have to see in terms of what comes forward here. We do know what Canada is going to be focusing on, and it's trying to get children that Russia has taken from Ukraine and making sure that they can be brought back. So we'll see if there's any funding announcements or other things that are related to that. But we heard Volodymyr Zelenskyy in a sit-down with Justin Trudeau thank him for Canada's push and efforts on that front. It will likely be the key focus of Justin Trudeau here, with the money actually being pushed out the door in the tune of $5 billion Canadian dollars from the Canadian perspective of the loan agreement that was done in Italy. That will be for there, and likely dealing with the Ukrainian kids who've been taken for this peace summit in Switzerland.
Okay, and Trudeau also met with Italian leader Giorgia Meloni this morning and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi yesterday. What came from those meetings?
We'll start off with Meloni. That was a very pleasant meeting. If you go back to last year at the G7, their sit-down was quite raucous, one of the interesting moments of last year's G7. Trudeau publicly criticized, in the moments where the cameras are there beforehand, Meloni's LGBTQ record. This time, a much more cordial, kind meeting. Each meeting that the Prime Minister has, his office puts out what's called a readout. Basically, they tell journalists and folks at home who'd like to read it. I would advise you not to. They're usually pretty boring. But they tell you what they talked about. And two key things were not mentioned today in the meeting. LGBTQ rights, as we talked about before, but also abortion. And abortion being a particularly interesting thing because at the leaders' communique, the final document that goes out of the G7, Italy pushed very hard and was successful in removing language that had been in the past number of years about access to safe and legal abortions. That was taken out at the behest of Meloni herself. So Trudeau did not bring those issues up when they talked today. Very interesting, in particular in the domestic contest, where in the House of Commons we hear all the time the Liberals bringing up the abortion debate in reference to the Conservatives. When it comes to Modi, yesterday his office was very tight-lipped. The Prime Minister's office was very tight-lipped on what was discussed, saying they were just talking bilateral relations. The Prime Minister's office actually might have been caught off guard a little bit. The person who alerted us, the media, about this meeting was Narendra Modi's Twitter account. He tweeted out a photo taken by his staff of Trudeau and Modi shaking hands. Trudeau again today was asked at a press conference what was discussed, and he really did not go any further details. So no word on whether or not he brought up foreign interference in elections, with the NCCOP report naming India as one of the main countries that are attacking Canadian democracy, as well the killing of Hardeep Singh Nijjar in BC. No word if Trudeau brought those up during the meeting yesterday with Modi.
Right, and you mentioned foreign interference. The Prime Minister also addressed the allegations of Canadian foreign interference this morning. Can you tell us a little bit about what he said and his potential concerns with the report released earlier this month?
Yeah, again, we hear from the Prime Minister similar language that we've heard from Dominic LeBlanc, of course, the Public Safety Minister, the minister who's been really the point person and taking a lot of questions on this. Mr. LeBlanc kind of threw some cold water on the port, saying that they, in essence, didn't interpret the intelligence in their estimation properly. And Mr. Trudeau echoed that today, saying that they had concerns over what NCCOP has done. Now, it's important to note, this is a group of parliamentarians from both the House of Commons and the Senate that represent all different parties, both the parties in the House of Commons and the different senatorial groups. So interesting to hear the Prime Minister pushing back on that, of course, in the context of both Jagmeet Singh and Elizabeth May reading those unredacted versions and having different conclusions. Mr. Singh saying that there are traitors in the House of Commons. And then also, Mr. Trudeau would not say something that both Mr. Singh and Ms. May have said. They have said that there are no New Democrats and no Green Party members listed within the report as people who are alleged to be either semi-witting or wittingly participating in foreign interference. I asked the Prime Minister about that directly. Could he say whether or not Liberal MPs currently sitting in his caucus were listed in that report? He brushed off both questions both times. So no clarity in terms of if any Liberal MPs are potentially named in this. He won't give the names. They've said it would be reckless, quote unquote, Dominic LeBlanc's words, to release that, but not even any additional details from the Prime Minister on what's in this report, only an attempt to say that there are problems with it without giving any clarification on what Mr. Trudeau thinks those problems are with this report.
Okay, Mackenzie, we will keep checking back with you for the latest. That's Mackenzie Gray in Switzerland at the Ukrainian Peace Summit. Thank you.